Good morning. Welcome to another episode of College Coffee Talk with your hosts, Pearl and Andy Lockwood. You're Pearl.
I am Pearl.
I'm the other guy.
Hi,
And
everybody.
welcome to the program. We'll start off with our traditional simultaneous synchronized beverage sip. Good morning. 1, 2, 3.
Cheers.
Nice job on this. Delicious. Let us know in the chat what you're having if you feel like sharing that. It's kind of personal information. Or not. So welcome. We got a good show today because we are taking some of the most frequently searched and asked questions and turning them into programs. This is our Facebook show every Monday morning, 10 a.m. It's also on YouTube, TikTok. It's on a podcast, the College Admissions Edge. Anywhere you are listening or watching us, you want to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on tips like this, if you feel like it's valuable. So today's episode is all about how to get money, how to find and apply and win merit scholarships. We spent a lot of time talking about getting into college, paying for college, whether you should go to college, test prep, SAT and the ACT. Pearl is a financial aid maven. She completes financial aid applications for 400-something families a year. So if you have questions about any of this stuff, pop them in the comments section wherever you're watching, and we will monitor them and respond. I just responded to one moments before we went live today.
You're kidding.
I'm not. Do I kid about that?
No.
Okay, so I'm not kidding. Dead serious. And that was a question, I think it was from another college advisor who had a question about supplemental essays and whether to break it up into paragraphs or not. And so I answered that one. So if you have anything like that, wherever you're watching, pop it in there. Okay. Should we talk about money?
Let's talk about it.
All right. And
Let's talk about the money.
Actually, a song. Very good.
I come up with that each show, and so far, effortlessly successful in doing so.
You could put a little more effort in. Not to be rude.
That wasn't a good pick.
No, that was great.
Money. Do that one too. All right.
Good morning to Christine, who runs our business. Good morning, Thea, and several other people who are joining us. Welcome, and everyone joining us on replay. So, all right. So, let's get down to business. Let's talk turkey. Let's get down to brass tacks, or any metaphor you want to use. So there's need-based aid, which we're not going to cover too much today until the end, just to round out the discussion. But that's based on your income, your savings, etc. There's merit aid that comes from colleges that is kind of a catch-all category that's not only for GPA and SAT scores, but it's also about what?
Other non-academic reasons, like you play an instrument, you're on a team of some sort.
And how much that college wants you.
That's precisely right.
Yeah, that's what it all boils down to. Yep. And then there are outside sources of scholarships that are not from the college endowments themselves, or from other organizations. We'll touch on those briefly. Is there another source of money that we should touch on?
Grandma?
Well, no. Not bad. Tax scholarships is what I was thinking of. Of
course. Money
that comes from the IRS. That is something that our occasional audience member, but constant partner, Rick Darby CPA, the legend, self-proclaimed legend, whom I refer to as the ancient legend, will help our clients with a lot, which has to do if you're a business owner. It's about unlocking and scholarships,
keeping more money in your own pocket.
Yeah, so it's kind of a loose term that stems from, I think, 153 provisions in the tax code. In practice, it's about 7 or 8 that bear on any given self-employed person's situation, because they're probably overpaying in taxes, and because their current accountant is usually not doing much more than calling balls and strikes, just sort of keeping score, not offering strategies. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about endowment scholarships, and then we'll go into the outside scholarships. I'll make some brief comments on tax scholarships, and then Pearl, you can chime in and take over the whole show on need-based aid. And of course, we're looking for questions. Got it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you tracking?
Tracking.
All right. Let's circle back.
Just put a pin in that.
Okay.
Okay.
Still funny.
Yeah.
So the best way to think about getting merit scholarships is, of course, it helps to have high grades and high SAT or ACT scores. So the whole test optional thing may not inure to your benefit if you are trying to get merit scholarships and you apply to a school and you get in, but you don't submit your scores. That's my first comment there. The second comment is there's actually more non-need-based aid, meaning merit scholarships, out there than there is need-based aid. And that if I had to come up with one pithy reason why that's the case, it's because that's the college's business model. They need to attract people with high income who can either get their hands on some money from savings or 529s that they put away, or they can borrow. But colleges would rather give a merit scholarship. I don't know if it's rather, but they have to because of their business model, because they don't have, most of them don't have unlimited endowments. So other than the Ivies, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, who could afford to give everyone a full ride scholarship if they wanted to, but instead charge about 50% of families full price. Other than that set of schools, which is a very narrow, limited league of very rich colleges, most schools can't afford to do that. So what they do in effect is figure out through the use of enrollment consultants how much money to give to their high income, affluent, and mass affluent families. In effect, they'll say, okay, Trinity College. They might say something like, all right, we want to give this family $15,000, but if we give them that, our modeling, our statistics show that they might just go to UConn instead. So the enrollment consultant is saying, well, judging from our algorithm, you need to be in the $18,000 to $22,000 range. So offer them that, and they're likely to now come to Trinity. And of course, the other aspect is every parent loves bragging about the scholarships that their kids earned, even if they could pay for college by writing the check. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes.
What are you pointing at?
We were frozen for a second.
Are you cold? How about hot coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That doesn't doing that doesn't really.
Okay. Yes, it somewhat on its face, counterintuitively, a wealthy family will get a merit award to attract them because that wealthy family is going to be part of the university's plan to have approximately 25% of full paying customers subsidize the other 75%.
So by the way, not even wealthy, even if you don't consider yourself wealthy,
right.
but you have a six-figure income or more, the colleges
put you
in that bucket.
Right, that's right. But they would rather entice that family with some award, understanding, it's like when a store has a sale. They're not giving away more to you than is going to infect their profit earnings. So infringe, all the above.
Wait, what did you say the other day?
No.
Well, you say that every day. No, there was something.
Besides no?
Okay. No, it's just a malapropism. That was pretty funny.
Disciple?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point is, there is a method to this madness. They need 25% of full paying people, clients, students, to subsidize the other 75%. To get there, to attract, because everyone wants to feel in some way they're getting something, that they are on the upper side of things. So it's very easy to do that with a small but still a decent amount off of the cost of attendance. It goes a very long way with these otherwise non-need eligible families.
Yep. and they have to do it because they can't afford it to give everyone a full ride that wants it. Like Trinity College doesn't have the endowment of Harvard. So that ties into the next point here. Where do you find, or which colleges are most likely to give money? Is usually the private colleges. There are some out-of-state state universities that tend to give a little bit more than others, but generally the harder the school to get into from a state university, like Berkeley or a UT Austin or a University of Virginia, or Michigan. Those are the types of elite public high schools, colleges, thank you, that tend not to give so much money. But the types of universities that do tend to give, state universities that do tend to give money, are probably the ones that are on the tier of UMass or Delaware or Vermont or Arizona State, those schools, because they're trying to collect the balance. So I think it's called the Chivas Regal effect in advertising. You charge a higher price and then you discount, as opposed to just charging a lower price. Because if if a school all of a sudden drops their price, you think, like Pearl was saying, wow, they're offering this fire sale. There must be something going on there. That means that they're not a high quality school,
right?
Which it may or may not. So the average tuition discount by a private college is now 56.1 or 2%, according to the National Association of Collegiate Business Officers. That means there's a lot of bargaining out there. So if you are looking to cut the cost of college, and you're trying to get merit scholarships, because you don't think you're going to qualify for need-based aid, which may or may not be the case, which we'll talk about momentarily, then your best bet is to target the private colleges that are generous, and the second component, generous to your child.
Right.
So if your kid has to scratch and claw and beg, borrow, and steal, in effect, to get into these colleges, chances are they're not going to be as desirable a candidate, because colleges engage in what's called preferential packaging, which means they tend to give more money to the kids that they want the most.
Yep.
Yeah, that's plain and simple. So who else is with us? I just want to say good morning to Bruce, to Song, to Maria. Maria has my cell phone now. I told her to use that wisely. She said, I bet that was hard to do. I was like, it was not at all.
For you.
Jenny. Right.
Perhaps.
Yep, I haven't listed anyone else here who has my cell phone. Vernalyn, Michelle, Sharon, good morning. Feel free to pop your comments in and your questions. Most of the time, these colleges do not require additional applications. If it's going to come from the college's endowment, most of the time they're just going to offer it either simultaneous with the offer of admission, which could be in December or January, February, March. It might be a few days later. If you don't get an offer, that's not a good sign, but you should still inquire and say, hey, just wondering, what merit scholarships or any other funding I might be available for, might be available for me. And chances are you'll get a response back saying, here's how you borrow. So that would be from a college that is possibly generous, but doesn't value your kid the way that they do other people that your kid is competing with.
Another very important point I wanted to bring up. Many schools require the filing of financial aid forms just to trigger the merit aid consideration. So enough where it behooves you, if you're not need eligible, but you very much want to be considered for the merit awards, file the financial aid forms. You want to do that, because unless you want to hunt down your list of 20 schools, who does, who doesn't, just send them all in. Send them all in. The other piece of that, okay, so Ivy League schools on a record officially do not give merit awards. They only give need-based awards. Okay, fine. That's fine. Largely true. But we have witnessed, in terms of just circling back to that preferential packaging notion, we worked with a student years back who was all that and a bag of chips. He really was. Okay. And he got into Harvard and Yale and Princeton and everywhere else. But those three schools were the, final contenders. This was a non-need eligible family, successful dentist in practice in Manhattan, blah, blah, blah. The offers at the outset, again, from those three schools, which do not accept merit, do not offer merit aid, according to them. And in this case, one school gave zero, one school gave zero, and the last school gave $30,000 off the price, which is,
Wait, it was actually Harvard gave zero, and then we appealed it, and they gave like $7,000. And then he got into the other schools,
right?
And it was
and then
Princeton.
Then a bidding war ensued.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Princeton they looked at the same financial aid applications, and they knew where else he applied, I guess. And so they're like, oh, we got to give him some money to get here, even though he wasn't need eligible. They were like, here's 30 grand.
Exactly. So P.S. This student ended up going to Harvard for a discount of $54,000 a year. Okay, from a non-merit giving to a non-need eligible kid. So, well, they did what they wanted. They preferentially packaged and did what they wanted to acquire this student. So, when in doubt, submit the forms. Because who knows if that's going to be your student, maybe not at Harvard, but at another school that your kid wants to go to altogether. And what if they want to preferentially package your non-need eligible kid, So besides that terrific story, you want to, there are NYU, Fordham. If you want to be considered for merit at those schools, you need to submit the financial aid forms, irrespective of your finances, period.
Gary mentioned that we need a band to play us in.
Oh, you're right.
You are right, but it's not in the budget. Maybe there's some AI type, for talk show hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of our, college bound kids.
Well, we have to have them in our subterranean studio. We got to clean up. You don't want to see what's off camera here. Maybe someday we'll do a tour, an on-air tour.
Maybe not.
Maybe after we do a little cleanup. So, okay. So now, that's a great point. So everyone should pretty much count on submitting the financial aid applications for all those reasons. Plus, you just never know if you're going to be eligible or not.
Right.
And you might show up financial strength, which will, like Pearl was saying, counterintuitively promote colleges to give you more money.
You also, and then the last thing is just the year that COVID happened was a shock to everyone. And there were people who just never filed financial aid forms and they continued to not file. And then unfortunately, when everything hit the fan, people lost jobs, people lost businesses, and then wanted to obtain funding through the federal loan system. They were unable to do so because they hadn't preserved their right to do so by filing the right forms.
I don't know if it was a shock to everyone. You know who wasn't shocked by it?
You? Who?
No.
Oh, I think a joke is coming. A controversial one.
Laura. Our building clairvoyant.
Nice plug.
Yeah. Sharon? Laura.
Laura.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how come you didn't know?
I have other Lauras in my life.
Okay. Who predicted everything? There's apparently a clairvoyant in our building. I'm just gonna leave it like that. No, but someone was saying we should package. I think Jordan, our nephew, was saying we should package her services to help predict what colleges our clients get into.
And if we had the band, this is when they go, but I'm bumped. Okay, next.
Okay, well, I don't think it's funny. Okay, merit aid that comes from outside sources. So there's a lot of websites that seemingly offer scholarship contests and places to search for scholarships that come from non-college endowment sources. Some of these places are kind of rip-off, sketchy. If they're asking you to pay them for a scholarship search, that's usually a sign that they are not going to help you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll advertise, scholarships to Harvard, but in theory, the word scholarship is a merit-based term, not a need-based term. So that's kind of weird, although Harvard does have some scholarships. But Anyway, the websites generally are wastes of time, and I'm not casting aspersions on any particular scholarship search website. I just don't know anyone who's ever gotten significant money from any of those sites. That's and I've been in this field over 20 years, so I can't imagine how I would not have come across somebody at some point. The best places to look for scholarships, and by the way, just to back up, we have someone on our team who is a scholarship search expert, but that's just part of our overall financial aid and college advisory services. We don't charge a specific fee for that.
Mhm.
And she's great, but everyone who uses her does not win a scholarship. And there's a lot of outside factors.
And a lot of work that is also extra work that's required on the part of the student
Yeah.
for these outside
Right.
scholarships.
That's one of the factors, is that it requires some work. You've got to do some applications
On top of your applications.
to admission,
Right.
for admission.
Right.
So I would say the best sources to find these $1,000, $2,000, $500, $5,000 scholarships are generally locally. So
Right.
every year, your high school has some sort of award night where they list all the scholarships that kids win. So ask your guidance counselor, or try to find the program from last year, or someone has it at the school that lists all these sources of money, and check out what you need to do in terms of requirements
Yeah.
to qualify for those. That's one way. Check with your employer. Check with your
Parents' employer.
your parents' employer, right? Check with your local, church that you go to, or temple that you go to.
Mhm.
There's a lot of money out there, and it's very specific, and it's not advertised, which is why it doesn't show up on these web searches. A ninja tactic that I've had a couple kids do this in the past, but very few will do this, is look at the scholarship winners from other high schools in your area. A lot of that's posted online, or certainly in like the local papers that are that exist really to publish kids' sports results and high school stuff. So you might be able to pick up some information there, and then do a little research to find out what it takes to get those to get those scholarships. But I wouldn't spend too much time on those online sites. Try them out of morbid curiosity, but once you go down the rabbit hole, hours can turn to days, into weeks, into months, and they're usually pretty fruitless.
And just to reiterate, the main source, be it need-based or merit-based, way you get your hands on that money is by filing whatever financial aid forms are required at the school you're applying to. Sometimes it's only the FAFSA, and then sometimes it will be both the FAFSA and the CSS profile. It depends on what the school you're applying to requires. It's not your choice.
Sometimes it's their choice.
It's your choice. But when people say, well, how do I get considered, and how do I apply for the money and the discounts? And this is how you file the financial aid forms. That is the predominant way to get a discount off of your cost of attendance.
Right. The biggest source of money out there is merit aid, which may or may not require you to file your financial aid applications. Just applying to the right set of schools is what I would say is the most important thing, whether you're going to get need-based aid or merit aid. But these outside scholarships, the last comment I'll make, those are hard, few and far between. And if you win one, and you're also eligible for need-based aid, what happens?
You'll get both to the extent, but they're not going to pay you money, but they will satisfy.
Well, the answer I was looking for is that it actually then reduces your need, your financial need. If you are need-based, if you are in a need-based situation because of your resources, then you come up with other resources.
Right.
For college,
then they're going to reduce your financial aid award by the amount of outside scholarship you receive.
Yeah. And it's usually
it may not be to your benefit to do that.
It's usually that they'll reduce the loan component first of your financial aid package, because financial aid packages consist of free money and loans.
Right.
Different amounts from different colleges for different students. But if you're lucky enough to have won a scholarship from a local organization or some other organization, and you also receive need-based aid, which is based on the financial need that you show, meaning your resources, then what you're supposed to do is inform the financial aid office of the scholarship that you want. And we recommend you do that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I see some questions coming in here, and then we'll answer these, and then let's go to a little more discussion of need-based.
Okay.
Brought to you by Pearl Lockwood. Good morning to, yeah, Maria has been very good so far. Casey, Maria, Betsy, how much information should we disclose on the CSS profile application, like parents education? Pearl.
You should be honest about that.
Yeah, all information.
Yes.
Stacy, Nazir, Len, Carissa. What about the small liberal arts colleges in the NESCAC? I'm a NESCAC alum myself. Thank you. New England Small College Athletic Conference, for those of you not in the know, like Carissa and I. And Gary. He knows everything. Have you seen them do any preferential packages, even the ones that don't offer merit? Yes, absolutely.
Totally.
That happened with me. I actually, I went to Wesleyan to play basketball, and then after the second year, when I stopped playing basketball, all of a sudden my package changed, and not in a good way. And that was a long time ago. Still happens.
Yeah.
Tommy, Josie, Ashcock. If you guys have questions, pop them in here. Ozem, hey, sorry if I got that one horribly wrong. Alexandra, I think I got that one right. Sergio, Dawn, my daughter is still only. May I read it?
Of course.
Would you like to read it?
My daughter, my daughter is still only a junior in high school. She had fallen in love with UMass and does not want to go to our state university, UConn. Is it realistic to think we could get out of the state cost down to a comparable price of an in-state, and would it be helpful to apply early action?
I could answer that too, Pearl. I'm not bragging.
Go ahead.
No, you answer it.
Okay, it depends. A lot of times, other state schools that are nearby will offer an in-state tuition rate for near-ish states. Like, I know New York State, for example, Binghamton will offer the in-state rate to UMass residents if you apply during such and such time, and as you said, an early action or whatever. Yes, there are those benefits and state schools that do that, so you should certainly look into it, and your two schools that you've mentioned would lead me to believe that they could be doing something like that with those schools. In just separately, in terms of the early action piece, traditionally, so just to distinguish, early decision is binding. You get out, you're committing if you get in, with some exceptions. And then early action, theoretically, gives you an opportunity to also submit your financial aid forms and applications early. And theoretically, you should hear back an admissions decision sometime in December, January, depending on the school. But in the last couple of years, with the marketing, I believe, on part of the universities to receive so many applications, this is a whole other discussion, to jigger their stats. And if they have so many applicants with the same amount of people they admit, oh, look, now we went from a 14% admission rate to a 7%. Why? Because they had so many more applicants. All right. But that is not what statistics can be meddled with. But my point is, because there was such an overwhelm for the admissions officers at a lot of the schools, because of this increased applications, it was very difficult for them to give decisions on all these early applications, early action applications. And so what ended up happening was they just deferred most of these early action candidates. And a lot of the students are left wondering, is it because I'm not a good enough candidate? Probably. And that's why I'm in the regular pool. And whoa, that's a little scary. Or did they just not have time and I've been pushed off like everybody else to the regular decision? My point is, I just wanted to let you know that for the last 2 years, we've seen that happening. That in fact, it's the latter, that they just couldn't get to the applications in time. So they pushed them all out to from early action to regular decision timeline.
Can you just repeat that?
I can, but I think everyone heard me.
So my answer to your question is, I think it's unlikely that you'll be able to get UMass down to a UConn price, but it could come close. And some of these states have these compacts. The New England state universities have a sort of an agreement where if you're if you want to major in architecture and you live in Connecticut, but UConn doesn't offer that, you could go to UMass, which does offer it for the UConn price. But they do discount. The out-of-state schools do discount to some extent. UMass is one of those schools. I don't know if you can get all the way down from 50 something to 30 something, but it might be closer.
This
And we have to
also,
wrap up.
okay, but this also was where if your student is at the top echelon of that school,
Right.
they may want to make such an offer because they want that student in their statistics to class them up.
Stay classy, Pearl.
Always said that.
Yes, Pearl's very classy.
You always be the lady.
Is that your mom talking?
Yes,
Can you say that anymore?
I'm going to keep saying it.
Can you say jigger?
I hope so.
Okay.
Am I not? Isn't that an
It's-
actual word?
It is. I just, it
Oh,
just made
geez.
me flinch.
Whatever. I probably can't say that either.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode, today's show, because we're out of time. But I see some more comments coming in. We'll answer the substantive ones and probably the wise ass ones too. I'll handle the wise ass ones.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for watching or listening, wherever you are. Again, I encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss out. If there's any way to rate this show, like on the podcast, preferably 6 stars out of 5, but whatever you think is fair, we'd appreciate that too. Pearl, you have the last word before we wrap up.
We'd rather have 5 stars, actually. But whatever you think. We're not here to influence.
Any last bits of
Wisdom, wit and
Yes.
wisdom.
Yeah.
If your student has not gotten going yet, it's time. The train has left the station. This year is underway, and it only gets more like Space Invaders, closer and closer and more busy and busier. And so get it going now, get into it strong, and clear your deck so that you can enjoy the rest of your senior year, if that's the case. And no matter what,
juniors and sophomores also get serious now.
that's right. You're building the body of work that you're going to
Yeah.
be judged on in a year or 2, as the case may be. And just wanted to say a hearty thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you for always giving us terrific subjects to talk about. We often get our topics from the comments or the questions you provide us. So please don't be shy. If we're talking about merit aid today, we could be talking about essays next week and
Words like jigger, always be the lady.
Anyway, so if there's anything you are interested in hearing about that is college related, anything to do with the college plan, we as a firm handle everything that deals with the college plan, because you got to know what's going on entirely with the process, because it all affects one another, all parts of the process. So let us know what you want to hear more about, and we will inform you about it.
All right. Have a great week.
week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.